Happy holiday week. It is Thanksgiving week, and we're back to talk about some Giants baseball. It does feel a little weird talking about baseball during Thanksgiving week. It's more of a
Yeah.
football kind of thing.
Especially when things are so slow, man.
Yeah,
Let's get this free agency going here.
The 49ers play on Thanksgiving this year.
Right.
They play the
Short week,
night
huh?
game, short week. You guys got a W.
I think we beat up the Seahawks for you guys, so you're welcome. Because it looks like Geno Smith is probably going to play, but I think Kenneth Walker is not going to play. But Charbonnet is a killer running back. So
Yeah, Aaron Darnold kind of a little rude to Mr. Geno Smith.
He's a bad man. He's a bad man. I tell you, Aaron Donald has not missed a step at 31, 32 years old. So fun to watch.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
This is the second showing of my new Tribe Called Quest hat.
Yes,
that I bought.
like it.
And the reason that I bought the hat is because the 30th anniversary of Midnight Marauders was recently, and so they put out a bunch of new merch. Unrelated to that, I had also purchased the Love Movement, which is one of the few, it may be the only Tribe album that I didn't have on vinyl. There may be another one.
Yeah.
I just have to go through them and figure out which one I still need. But the Love Movement, I mentioned this to Brad not that long ago, but the Love Movement is an album, to me, it's not a great Tribe album. They
got some good tracks on it.
Yeah, the lead track is awesome.
Yeah,
but the reason why it means a lot is because we're talking about late 90s. So I believe it's 1998 this album comes out. And, the Tribe is, we're into a different era of hip hop of what's popular. 98 is much different than 1991 when they kind of get popular with the low end theory. So Brad and I are a part of the San Jose State sports show on KSJS. Brad, you are probably the lead host of this roundtable show.
I think so. Yeah.
And the show is over. And the person who was supposed to be next to host the next radio show that was following the sports show was not there. Like, they did not show up. They were late for their shift. And so Brad's like, well, I guess I have to do this hip hop show until this person gets here.
And I was well versed on classic hip hop.
Yeah.
Early 90s hip hop. Like you said, this was 98. This album came out in September 98. So this is probably like September, October when this all went down. And I didn't know the new stuff. I only knew what I liked and the old stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So here, for those on video, here is what the album looks like. Ooh, so it's just a white album. It's called Love Movement.
That looks really nice on vinyl. I like the big stock on that. Yeah.
And so as Brad is really hustling, he doesn't have anything planned to play, he just realizes this person is not there for their set. And he just pulls out I don't know if it had to have been a record, right?
No, it was a CD. It was a CD because
okay.
We had the two CD players in the studio. Yeah.
Okay, so he pulls out a CD, and it is the Love Movement, and he looks at the track list, and I'm going to look at the track list here. He picks track number 3. The track is called "Da Booty," and this is the track that Brad plays, in the urgency that was necessary so that there wasn't dead air. He looked at the thing and he's like, that sounds like a great one. Da Booty. And that's the track that Brad plays until the person shows up for their set. So that is a very memorable KSJS moment for me because I just remember seeing Brad in the clutch and go to Tribe. And I think that's probably a great call. If you needed an album to play, just throw something from Tribe on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think I had a bunch of CDs too, as bumper music was always kind of the thing. So yeah. And so I had that one and I probably had just bought it as well. So it was very exciting for me to be able to play my jams
Yeah, there you
on the KSJS airwaves. So yeah.
You did the country show from what I remember.
I did, yeah. I had that Smoke and Gun show on Saturday nights from, oh gosh, I think it was like 5 to 7. So it was like 2 hours of classic country music. There wasn't any classic country music being played in the Bay Area in the late 90s. It was not a thing. There was no Sirius XM. There was no Sirius, and there was no XM. As you remember, when they first came out, there were two different companies. XM was launched in 2000, and I bought an XM receiver like a month into their launch. I went to Circuit City and they had a receiver there, and it was like $100. And then I subscribed to it and I did all the cool stuff. And I was so into that because I got classic country, I got mid country, I got 90s, I got all that cool country. So, but before that, yeah, I would go to, let's think of some names here. Rasputin.
Oh yeah.
Remember
Rasputin still exists.
Yeah, this is what I've heard. Because
as does Streetlight. I'm almost sure Streetlight exists too.
So Streetlight, Rasputin, and that's when you could go into the record stores. You could find a classic country album that was super clean, not all gashed up, not dirty, anything like that, and it would be maybe 50 cents. Yeah. Now, if you go into a used record store, you're going to find that same record for like $5. $6 or something like that. You know, like a super clean Willie Nelson classic album. They just wanted to get it out of Streetlight Records, so it would be like 50 cents. Please take this Willie Nelson. So yeah, so that was fun. That was a lot of cool stuff. I got to play on Saturday nights, and man, I miss that. And then we had the morning show. I don't know if you remember that. Morning Goo. That was on every Friday morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Oh wow.
And we did one show that was super fun right before 4th of July. We had a Santa Clara police officer come in from the Santa Clara Police Department, and myself and co-host Sally Kite at the time. Nick Martinez was our engineer for the show, and he was on the show as well, the three of us. And our buddy Harveen, you know Harveen, he's in all of our fantasy leagues. He came in and we took a shot of tequila every half hour.
Oh my God.
And did it at 6 a.m., starting at 6 a.m., and did a blood alcohol test to kind of show like, hey, we're coming up on the 4th of July weekend. This is what can happen, quickly before you even know what's going on. And so by the end of that show, I was riding pretty high. That was
yeah. I mean, what did you? Where were you going to sleep on campus? Because not like you could just go home after that.
Dropped me off, and I crawled into bed, and I was out. That was it, man. I was gone.
So Davis, who is a younger listener, Davis probably was barely born when the love movement came on. Davis may have only been a few years old, like 5 years old. That's or something.
True.
So yeah, this is Thompson to Clark origins. This is Brad when we knew we were very early in knowing each other. So yeah, I love those stories. Okay, let's actually talk some baseball. Now, I think we should lead with Logan Webb, finished second. I thought he may finish third. I thought because Arizona went far, that Gallen, might get more votes. But no, Logan Webb actually did get a first place vote as well. He finished second in the NL Cy Young Award race to Blake Snell. And, Blake Snell we talked about his year, which is, short stints. He wasn't a guy who's going to go in the 8th inning like Logan Webb would, but he was very successful in his shorter stints. Not, striking out a lot of guys, not letting a lot of batters, put barrel on the ball. He has his fair share of walks as well, but he throws a lot of pitches for a small amount of innings, but just had a hell of a second half. And so Blake Snell is your NL Cy Young Award winner. But I did think, and I was going to ask you this because we're going to sort of relate this to new pitching coach Brian Price's conversation that he had with Andrew Baggerly in The Athletic. The idea that Logan Webb goes deep into games seemed to vibe well with voters in the era of the opener. And I know it vibes well with us because the Giants only had 3 starters all year long, and we're just bullpen game. So when you see Logan Webb, you're like, oh, thankful. We don't have to be on the edge of our seat in the 3rd inning because, Gabe Kapler's, going to the mound already. So I thought that was a really cool thing that he did very well, because it shows you, the starting pitcher going deep into games still matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And Logan Webb led the majors, 216 innings, right, on the season pitched. And so that's always, that's one of those things too that you kind of want to see the Giants move towards. We'll definitely talk about that later, because I got a kind of a fun segment. I don't do many segments, but I was like, I got to do this segment.
Davis just hurt both of our feelings right now.
Oh no. Oh no. What happened?
I was saying last night on the 49ers show, We Want Winners, I said that the last time the Niners won the Super Bowl, I was a high school senior, and he said he was born a month later after that.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how old I was, and what was that? 95.
94.
Was it?
Yeah, it would be February
94 season.
Yeah, January of 95.
January of 95. I was I was older. I'm trying to do math here. Let's see. 93. I was able to drink. So there you go. Let's just put it that way.
There you go.
Legally drink alcohol at that point.
Yeah, I would have been 19 myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, back to Logie. It was great to see that. And the other thing about Logan Webb, he is a true, like, ace. Ace is correct in the description of him, but he is a battler.
Yeah,
like, he is a grinder, and if he doesn't have his best stuff, it's a rare occasion where he gets run out quickly, because he's going to figure out a plan B. And this year it was Patrick Bailey. They're going to figure out a way to get through 5 innings without his best stuff. And I think that is maybe my favorite thing about him, because when you don't have your best stuff, there's still a responsibility to the team, because they expect to win when you pitch, being the best starting pitcher. So when you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have my A fastball, or my sinker is not cutting the way that I want it to do. And you have to have a battle plan so that your team still has an opportunity to win the baseball game. And I think that's my favorite thing about Logan Webb. Logan Webb is not going to come in, throw 9 innings, 15 strikeouts, 2 hits, shut. That's just not the way that he pitches. He's going to pitch to contact a little bit more than that. And just the ability for him to give the Giants an opportunity to win just about every time he pitches. I think that's my favorite thing about him.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the other thing too, is he would have won the Cy Young Award had he not had, there were a couple of games this year. I think there were, I don't know exactly how many, I have to go back and look, but probably about 4 or 5 games where he just had those first inning yips. They'd give up a run, give up a home run. It took him a little while to settle in. If he can get rid of that, if next year he goes into the season, and of course he's going to be way more comfortable with Patrick Bailey. Barring any kind of injury, Patrick Bailey will catch all 32 to 35 of Logan Webb starts, no problem. So they're going to have a nice rapport going into next season. And so I think, again, get rid of those first inning yips in a couple of those games, and he wins the Cy Young, because when you look at 180 innings for Blake Snell on the season, 216 for Logan Webb, that's a pretty big difference. And Logan Webb went deep into a bunch of games. New regime, we're going to see hopefully more pitchers going for the Giants deep in the ball games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we'll circle back to the conversation with Brian Price that I mentioned, but I did want to mention a couple of other things. We do pay attention to the rest of baseball. We don't only pay attention to the Giants. Ohtani and Acuna, unanimous MVPs. I think that's the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, Shohei, I think that was kind of a lock. There wasn't really anybody else in the American League who was really competing.
I guess Seager finished in second. And
yeah, he finished
in Simeon.
And Seager had a decent season. He had a good season. But again, you're not, as long as you've got a guy like Shohei who can do what he does on the mound and at the plate, it's going to be near impossible to take an MVP away from him. Now, next season, when he's not pitching, there's going to be a battle for the AL MVP.
Yes.
NL MVP, I'm really glad Acuna Jr. won it. He's I've kind of gravitated towards that guy because I love the stolen bases. I love the power.
He was the first ever 40-50, 40-60, and 40-70 guy
He
ever.
just kept going.
My gosh.
Yeah, he was close to being 40-80. I mean, if he could have just, had a couple more I think it's 7 or 8 more stolen bases on the season, he would have been a 40-80 guy, which is insane. But yeah, I really, really like that guy. I really like Acuna Jr. Very well deserved. I know there was the battle around midseason, a little bit later than midseason, where people started talking about Freddie Freeman. Who else was in there too? I think Lindor was another one. They were kind of starting to throw the name in, and then that got pulled back pretty quickly. Matt Olson was another name that was thrown in there. So, but I think altogether, the voters got that one right, because that's it. Anytime you have a historic season like that, you kind of got to give that award away.
Yes. And on the other side, Garrett Cole, also unanimous Cy Young for the American League. So good to see that. Now, there is already a conversation about the Hall of Fame. The ballot came out, I think, today. Maybe we will look through that next week. It kind of came out a little bit too late for us to really do a deep dive on it.
Yeah, we got to pour over that one, because
there's another thing I want to pour over with you as well, and maybe we'll also do that next week. Maybe we'll make next week a little bit more of like a Major League Baseball podcast than a Giants one, because there's a fan survey about the state of baseball that I think would be a really fun conversation that we could go through from The Athletic.
You're not going to be talking about the Giants signing Shohei next week, though.
Yeah, if that happens, we're pushing everything. Everything goes.
If that happens, we're probably going to do an emergency pod. I would imagine we're not going to wait until Monday. I think exactly. I don't care if it happens Thanksgiving night during the Niners Seahawks game. we still might have to jump on. I don't know.
Yeah, we may have to. I may have to put the game on pause and just not try and stay away from any sort of updates. But sure. I actually, for the first time since we started the We Want Winners podcast, I had to watch the 49ers game on delay.
Oh, okay.
And so you'll love this. Hot take, Bri.
Oh yeah.
He's been living in San Francisco. His previous apartment that we just moved him out of was a 10-minute walk from Oracle Park, which I loved, because I would just park at his complex and we'd walk to the games.
That's awesome.
And but he's moved into the North Beach area, which was a little bit of a hike, but we moved him out of his place, and I bounced around the neighborhood a little bit in the Uber getting back to my car, and that place is lively. He and his significant other, they are going to have a blast living in that neighborhood. San Francisco gets a little bit of a bad rap these days because there is a lot of homeless, unfortunately, or unhoused neighbors in San Francisco. But this area is kind of popping, so I think they're going to have a blast. But so because of that, I was not able to watch the game. And we mentioned Davis. Davis was keeping me updated on stuff going to the game. Also, my guy Shelvin, who is like the third member of the podcast with Rod and I, because he's always with us. They were kind of keeping me going, and I was like, oh my gosh, do I try and stay away from spoilers? It's almost impossible. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to stay away from spoilers. If I get spoilers, so be it. Then I went after I had to leave a little bit earlier to get home, and I went to a taqueria right around the corner from his place, and I got a burrito. I had my Coke Zero. I had my phone, Hulu Live, got through the first quarter of the game on the small screen, and then in the Uber got to halftime, and when I got home, I watched the rest of it. But like, that was the first, like, it's so hard to think, like, I can do this podcast, I'm away from home, watching it on the small screen, not able to really listen to the commentary. So there's a little bit of a different viewing for me. But because the Giants have 162 games, like you and I don't catch every game live. We don't catch half of the games live. Like, we're catching up, later because there's so many games. But for football, it was just like, oh my gosh, but I got through it and I'm fine. I'm okay. And we were able to do our podcast a little later last night.
It's so hard to do it nowadays. Back when we would watch the games on, the advent of the DVR or the VHS tape, the only time you would get it spoiled to you is by a human being. Like, somebody would have to say, hey, your Rams did awesome today. And you're like, no, I'm trying to just get home. Because you could throw on a rock station on the way home or a CD or a tape, and you're not going to hear it. Nowadays, you're going to get, did I turn off all the 8 sports alerts that I have on my app, all the different apps that I have on my phone, so I got to put it on do not disturb, but then I got to make sure my kids can get through while I have it on do not disturb. So there's so many moving parts with that nowadays. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, those days are gone where you're trying to hide from the score. So
yeah, totally. All right. So Yamamoto posted today, or actually will be posting tomorrow. And so there will be a 45-day period in which teams can, I don't even know what the terminology is. Do you make an offer?
I think you just go straight negotiation.
Negotiate, whatever
you go
it is.
Right into negotiation.
So all teams have 45 days. And I wonder if the Ohtani stuff doesn't even happen until after Yamamoto is done. Like you mentioned this at the beginning. There's one signing that we'll talk about here in a second. That's kind of a big deal, but there's no schedule to any of this. It's just sort of like, oh, it's the off season. And, it's not like teams. I'm sure teams would love to know what Shohei's plans are so they could figure out the rest of their team. But what if he waits until the last minute? And then you're like, well, we lost, and now we have to fill out the back end of our team in a matter of a few weeks here. Like there's a little bit of stress there, I'm sure about.
Oh, yeah.
And what if you're one of those teams who are kind of in the mix for Shohei, but you're not confident? Maybe you're not the Dodgers. Somehow the Cubs snuck ahead of the Giants in the odds for Ohtani. I don't understand that one.
Yeah, I don't get that.
But if you're one of the 3 or 4 teams that sort of have the good odds and you lose out and this takes a while, then you got to figure out a lot of stuff. And by then some of these other players may be gone. Like there's a timing aspect of free agency that's got to be frustrating for some of these GMs.
Yeah, and I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Ohtani's going to wait until afterwards because him and his agent want to absolutely take a look to see what Yamamoto gets. And Yamamoto, you have to be done with the negotiations. He has to be signed by January 4th. So we're already into the new year at that point. So Ohtani's going to be after that, I think, because obviously they're smart, they're savvy, they know what they're doing, but they're going to look at Yamamoto and say, hey, this guy hasn't pitched in the United States ever against major leaguers. He hasn't pitched a season here. What is he going to get? If he's going to end up getting $250 million, well, then Ohtani's agent can easily say, well, Ohtani's done that already here. So his pitching alone is worth $300 million, $350 million. Then you tack on what he can do with the bat, another 300. You're looking at maybe 650 at that point. So I'm sure they want to see what Yamamoto is going to get. I mean, the whole, which we're about to talk about, the whole Aaron Nola thing kind of set the market for pitching. And from here, it's just kind of a domino effect going forward.
There's one interesting thing about the Shohei thing. And I've read this before, but I didn't know if there was any validity to it. But the idea that Mike Trout is out there to be gotten.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I can't imagine that's real, but
yeah, it's hard to believe that the Angels would be okay with losing both of those dudes.
Yeah.
But if you can restock your farm system, because, Mike Trout is in his early 30s now. By the end of his contract, his current contract, he's going to be, I think, in his later 30s. So you're taking this longer contract as well, and you're taking that off the Angels' hands. And maybe if they didn't sign Rendon to this contract that is like a grenade, then maybe they're not too worried about Trout. But if you can get off it, you're never getting off of Rendon. There's no possible way you're getting off of Rendon.
That that could be the case. I mean, the way that could happen. I was listening to a show today, and one of the hosts had mentioned that say it is the Dodgers, and because that is kind of the rumor. The Dodgers would try to sign Shohei, and they would try to trade for Trout. One way to kind of ease that for the Angels is you also take Rendon and his contract.
Woo!
Yeah, I know that because then that kind of frees up the Angels to start over. I mean, they would get a ton of prospects from the Dodgers. The Dodgers are always stacked, always have great prospects. And then you take Trout and Rendon, and then you figure out what you're going to do with Rendon. But man, there would be a revolt in Anaheim. You're already going to lose ticket sales if you don't get a chance to bring back Ohtani.
Okay, but here's the question: Do Angels fans are they passionate enough to have a revolt? Like, are they?
I think for Trout, because Trout is their guy. I mean, he was born and raised in that Anaheim organization. So that's their guy.
Yeah.
So at this point in his 30s, if you lose him, you're going to have a generation of kids and teenagers and early 20s, adults who grew up with Mike Trout, who are going to say, what's to keep us here? Oh, he got traded to the Dodgers. Guess what? We're now Dodger fans because we're within close proximity to
Absolutely.
LA. Sure,
that's a smart,
they're our rival.
Very smart. Very smart.
Yeah, and we hate them. But now we like them because they got Trout and they got Shohei and they got Rendon. No, I'm kidding. But
the Dodgers would be like, okay, Rendon, here's a check. Just go find another team. Like we're just gonna give you go away money.
Yeah, exactly. They'd pretty much have to at this point. I mean, he's got to be. I don't know. I'd love to see him at least attempt to have one more healthy season to see what you get out of him. But if Trout's gone and Ohtani's gone, then it's kind of your veteran, man. That's who you've got, kind of bringing up the young kids, which they don't really have many young kids because remember they kind of made a push after the All-Star break. Yeah, right up to the trade deadline, they traded away a lot of good prospects.
And then they ended up waiving guys.
They got the great. Did they get? Are they the ones who got Giolito, or did he end up? Yeah, they did. They got Giolito. So, yeah.
And I was of the opinion that you kind of had to do it because you had Ohtani.
Yes,
and
you had to show him.
It was gonna bite you in the ass no matter what, but you had to do it. Okay, here's a question. Now, this is the worst of our nightmares. Ohtani is going to the Dodgers. Let's just say that is happening.
Yep.
Do the Giants proactively have a deal ready for Trout just so that the Dodgers don't also end up with Mike Trout?
110% yes. Yeah, I mean, it's everybody. It's Luciano.
Even if it's Luciano and Harrison.
It's Luciano, it's Harrison, it's everybody, because chances are they're going to pull the trigger with the Dodgers because they have better prospects. That's kind of the way it is. And the Dodgers will up and do whatever they can. They'll say, we'll take the entire contract and we'll give you our top prospects. The Giants, their deal might be, look, we'll give you these prospects, but we'll take 80% of his contract, 70% of his contract, whatever. You eat some of that money. But yeah, you have to compete. You have to at least make an effort if the Dodgers are going to pull something like that. You've got to be ready, and you can't just go down not swinging. I mean, I don't remember the exact way it went down with Juan Soto. The Giants even rumored to have made an offer when the Padres were kind of pulling the trigger on that.
I don't think they had the guys that the Padres
really didn't.
That the Washington Nationals would have even wanted.
No,
now,
because I mean,
now it's a little bit better. because you do have Luciano, who showed that he made a big league roster. Harrison didn't have the lights out season that I think some of the hopefuls wanted. They wanted Bumgardner Part 2, but that
Right.
didn't happen. But they did make the big club, so there is, if you believe in the Giants' ability to evaluate talent, you go, yeah, they made it to the big team. So um, it is just the Dodgers just have younger talent who are a little bit easier to sell because you haven't seen them struggle as much because they're not, you know, 22 or 23, they're
Right.
19 and they're tearing up divisions, and they're just kind of growing within. And you just trust the Dodgers' ability to draft and to give prospects the right blueprint to grow within the system. You trust their organization to do that. So you're not just trading for prospects that you think are worthy. You're also trading for prospects that you think have been handled appropriately in their development. And so that's
Yeah.
the other piece of what makes their prospects so attractive.
Yeah, the other thing too is, looking at Mike Trout's contract, you have to understand too, if the Dodgers do end up getting him, they will be saddled with $35.5 million a year for the next 7 years, and Trout will be 38 at the end of that deal. So that's a lot to take on. But if there's a team that's in win now mode that continues to stumble in the playoffs, I mean, this is the only team that I can think of in the majors that is there. That is win now. We keep we keep being a win now team, and we keep not being able to get over the hurdle and into the World Series and win the World Series. Can't say that about the Orioles, brand new young team, just getting into the playoffs, just starting to kind of show who they are. Texas Rangers, I mean, they could make that a deal like that, but again, they've already got a winner. They know what they can do. The Dodgers are that team. It's not going to be the Padres either because they're trying to shed salary. So
Yankees and Red Sox don't even seem to be in the mix, which is
no.
always two organizations previously in the past who you'd always have to worry about. But yeah, it does seem like it's right now in baseball. It seems like if you're competing for guys, it's the Dodgers and it's the Mets.
And the Yankees a little bit. I know you said not necessarily, but I can't find, honestly, I can't find a free agent whose name is not tied to the Yankees right now. That's kind of the frightening thing too, because they're also on the cusp. They gave all that money to Aaron Judge, and they're trying to build this team around Aaron Judge, and they've got Garrett Cole, the AL Cy Young Award winner. So they've got these two players that they're sitting there not making the playoffs. So, I mean, there are a lot of free agent names that are tied to the Yankees right now, too.
Yeah, I just think the Yankees are a little bit, and watch them come out all of a sudden. They're number one. I just find them to be a little bit of a reputational thing right now
Yeah.
than a reality. But
A little bit more talk.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it they could surprise us for sure. But the fact that the Giants are in the mix, whether they are a distant third or whether they are actually competitive for Ohtani, this is a big deal. I think it's a big deal for fans. I think fans want to see Farhan actually sign somebody who was hard to sign. Like, can you,
Yeah.
like, you talk about the deal, right? Negotiation. Can you bring somebody home? And he has not shown the ability to do that yet. And this is a good opportunity for him. Maybe it's not this, maybe it's next year with Soto, but it's got to be soon because this fan base is just kind of waiting on their heels. Like, give me a guy who we want to come and we want to go watch and we want to pay for tickets, because right now Logan Webb is great, but Logan Webb isn't the box office guy. Hey, let's say Luciano comes out and hits 25 bombs next year. Maybe he becomes a little bit of that box office guy. Maybe Harrison has a good season, he becomes a little bit of that. But they don't have that. So that's what you get with
Right.
Ohtani. And I would actually pay. This is why the Giants have to overpay for this guy to keep him away from the Dodgers. Like they have to bump whatever the Dodgers are offering. The Giants need to add 10 million to that. They need to add 20 million to that because
Oh yeah.
it's like, look, man, we got to get this guy. He's the only surefire guy out there. And if you want to change your prospects around, if you want to turn yourself from an average baseball team into a good baseball team, or at least an attractive baseball team, there's one guy that can do that for you right now, and that is Shohei. So
Yeah. Because even Yamamoto, he can help. He can push you into the next realm, but not like Shohei can. Shohei is this sounds so dumb, but Shohei is a show. That's what he is. He is a put the butts in seats.
He is the show.
He is the show. He is the face of Major League Baseball right now, even though Major League Baseball is, they wear the absolute dunce cap when it comes to marketing. They're one of the, I watch NHL commercials and I go, ooh, I'm excited to watch a game tonight. MLB commercials. And I'm like, what's going on here, man? What are we trying to market? What are we doing? I know, you and I being baseball fans, we don't need the marketing to get into the game. We're already into the game. But if you want to draw fans, if you want to get fringe San Francisco Giants fans and fringe people who live in the city to come and see Shohei, the Giants in Major League Baseball really need to do a good job if they had a guy like Shohei and really kind of step up their game. Years ago, gosh, we had the Buster Posey and Romo telenovela commercials, the Spanish commercials, stuff like that. There is nothing to market this year. No. Really, honestly, when it came down to it, there's nothing to market.
The Brandon and Brandon.
The Brandon and Brandon, there's nothing fun and happy. So, that kind of all needs to change. I think the marketing for the Giants needs to kind of like flip a switch at some point.
You don't think Jock in the clubhouse playing cards is
playing? God, I wish I could remember the name of the game, but yeah, I don't think so. That type of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. We need something to draw attention away from that as well.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned Aaron Nola, 7 for 172. Not a break the bank contract. It is about a 24 to 25 AAV there for him.
It's still more than he should have gotten, but
which is good. Which is
good
really good. 7 years, Phillies. He'll be on their roster. We still have to kind of see how these long-term deals end up for pitchers. There's always a worry about that. But I don't think he was really attached to the Giants in any way. It seems like Philly was always the spot for him to go back to. And from what I understand, maybe he even gave up a little bit of money to stay there, which I always find so interesting that players do that. Like loyalty sometimes loyalty isn't equal for both parties.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think it's mainly because Atlanta was kind of knocking on the door too. And so you got your division rival saying, hey, we'll take Nola over here and, we'll bring him in for a visit and we'll start to offer him money. So Dombrowski, I'm sure, jumped in and was like, I'm going to give you more than you're worth. You had a 4.5 ERA last year, but you pitched awesome in the playoffs, and you are Philadelphia, and you are here, and you've been here. Let's finish the rest of your career here. What do you say? We got a winner. We're in the NLCS every year. Let's do this. So, yeah, I definitely gave him more. I think Atlanta probably would have given him less, but hey, again, setting the market. That's the whole thing, though. You get that first signing like that, and you're kind of setting the market. And I wonder if Farhan saw that and was like, "What are you doing, Dombrowski? You're killing me."
Well, it's the years thing that is so surprising to me, especially with these pitchers. Yeah. And we're watching all these teams go away from the idea of having this horse or this ace because they want to save the arms. And yet you're saying that this guy's going to be as good as he was in 5, 6, 7 years as he is now. That's just so weird to me.
He's going to be 37 years old at the end of this deal.
It's possible that they just think that the money's going to keep going up and up and up and up. And that's not really, if you sign somebody to 7 years, there's a great possibility that it is not going to be your problem at the end of that deal. You're not going to be
Right.
there. You're more than likely not going to be working for that team. So pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
Because you look at, let's see, his ERA 4.46 this year, 3.25 the year before, 4.63 in 21. He had a beautiful 2018 great season, Cy Young, third in Cy Young voting. He was 17-6 with a 2.37 sparkling ERA, but he hasn't really touched that since. But he is a 180 to 200 inning guy. Yeah. In the world of inflation, it's hard for the rest of us to look at those numbers and be like, well, what are ticket prices going to be next year now? Like,
Hey, man, they,
games.
like you said, they believe they have the secret sauce because they've been in
Yeah.
the World Series and the National League Championship Series 2 years in a row. So look, you got the fan base is hot. Tickets are going. You're filling up that ballpark. You have money. You want to take advantage of it. You want to keep Philadelphia being for baseball the hotbed, and you're dealing also with. You got the Eagles. The Eagles are really good right now. They're playing Kansas City. I'm kind of have it on in the background here, which is this number's going to do. I mean, this game's going to do bonkers television numbers tonight.
Oh yeah,
Insane.
I haven't turned it on yet. I usually have it. Sometimes when we're doing our show on Monday nights, I'll kind of have the game on the side. Yeah, Philadelphia is, and the Sixers are doing good, right?
And Sixers are good. Joel Embiid. They don't have James Harden anymore to bog them down, so things are good.
The Flyers are good too. I mean, everybody's
a good sports town right now.
Yeah, everybody's good in Philly right now. So yeah, that's you got to keep the band together, so to speak. So that was a great move.
Sylvester Stallone has got a new documentary.
Oh, have you seen it yet?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, okay. We're watching the Billie Eilish one right now from 2 years ago on Apple TV Plus. I'm enjoying that. So.
Yeah, so the Sly one is on Netflix. It's solid. If you're a Sly fan, it's fine. Nothing. I wouldn't say it's anything you need to go out of your way to watch. But this is kind of funny. I also watched the Pamela Anderson one on Netflix.
Oh, we started that and we didn't get through it because I got really bored within the first 20 minutes.
No, you got to hang with it a little bit because 2023 Pam is a little bit different than the Pam that we remember. She's a little bit older and she's kind of dealing with all of these memories. But it is worth it. I haven't finished it yet either, but I think I'm like 70% through. And it's solid. Okay. It's solid. All right, let's end this with two more things. I wanted to mention this quote from Giants' new pitching coach, Brian Price, and then we'll go to the segment that Brad put together to end this show. So Brian Price, now this is a long quote. I'm going to read it, but I want to get your thoughts immediately. And this is in relation to the idea of the opener versus what we talked about, Logan Webb being the horse on this team. Yeah. So Brian Price says, that really leads me into my basic philosophy. Let starters pitch the innings. It's no discredit to anybody. I think it's more of an industry-wide issue. The industry has gotten comfortable deciding that the less exposure for starters in the middle and later innings, the better. The stats tell you that the third and fourth time through the lineup, hitting numbers go up significantly. Those stats don't lie. But because we've been trying to avoid injuries at all costs, we've given all of the pitchers less exposure. But the game is still 9 innings. Whatever outs the starter leaves on the table will be absorbed by the bullpen. And with limitations on the number of pitchers you can have, unless you constantly rotate guys back and forth from the minor leagues, which I don't think is terribly healthy either, you're going to overuse your bullpen in the first half of the season. So for me, to see a major league team be consistently good over the long term, you need to have depth in the rotation and have pitchers beyond your 1 or 2 that are capable of throwing more than 5 innings, that are hungry and that are allowed to continue into the 6th, 7th, 8th innings when they're on and pitching well. The only way to do that is to get them stretched out to where it's reasonable to be out there with 110, 115 pitches. You can't ask that of a young guy who hasn't thrown more than 80 to 85 pitches. It's not realistic. There's times in a season when your bullpen is beat up and your starter that day has to be ready to take on a larger workload. You may need those 7 innings and 120 pitches. You need your starters to be ready for that. So that's a long quote, but Brian Price is like kind of he's like speaking for us there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's old school. So, like we talked about when the Giants hired Bob Melvin, you're going to get a mix. You're going to get you got Bruce Bochy, old school. You got Gabe Kapler, new school. You got Bob Melvin, middle school. I mean, he's right down the middle. A little bit of each. Brian Price was his pitching coach in 2000. Oh gosh, I think he was with him in Seattle, from what I
Yeah,
remember.
he was with he actually
Yeah.
describes that whole process in the interview with Andrew Baggerly, which I would
Okay.
tell people to go and read it. It is a really good piece. He's a Bay Area guy. Like
Yeah,
he
he's a
grew
Bay Area
up
guy too.
going to Giants games in the mid to late 70s and the early 80s. And so he knows this market well. And I guess he and Melvin are 1 year apart in age. And I guess that they would have possibly played together at Cal, but Melvin thought the JUCO route would actually get him to the big leagues faster. So he went the JUCO route. And so they did not Price did not get to pitch to Melvin, but I guess in Seattle is when they connected. And Price said that he actually got an interview to be a manager when what did they traded like Lou Piniella or something, right? Like, is that how the
Yeah.
job opened up for Melvin? So he interviewed for the managerial position, but Price thought, he's like, I don't really have like the resume for this. So it's not that I don't want to interview for it. I'm just not really ready for it. And then when Melvin interviewed as well, Melvin and him had a conversation, and Melvin was like, "Hey, I hope we're good. We're both interviewing for the same thing." And Price was like, "Nah, we're good, man. And I can't wait to work for you because you're probably going to get the job." So there's a history there that goes back to over 20 years. So I think that's a
Yeah.
really cool thing for them is to be together again. And Price basically said he was retired because when he was with the Phillies and then the pandemic happened, he did not want to be away from his family. So he just basically said, "Hey, I'm not going to do the pandemic thing. I'm not going to isolate from my family. And instead, I'm just going to retire because you guys have been good to me. I'm not going to go to another team." And so he was just retired and just away from the game. I think he was a consultant maybe with Melvin last year. And when Melvin got the Giants job, he's like, "Okay, like that's just too good to be true. And I need to
Yeah.
take this position."
I'm a Giants fan. My buddy
Exactly.
Bob Melvin is the
Exactly.
manager.
It's like
He
perfect.
wants me to come back and actually be a pitching coach at Oracle Park. So
It's
yes, this
crazy.
is it's a no brainer. So it's good, and we've been clamoring for this. We kind of got on board with the opener and the less innings pitch for starters and blah 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 blah. We kind of, and because we had to. I mean, you don't have a choice. You can push back against it as a fan, but you also have to try to look for the bright spots in it because it was happening. It's something that was happening. But as time went on, especially you and I talked about it a lot this year on the show. We're like the one and dive openers. We're tired of it, man. We need a 5-man pitching rotation. Um, Again, if you get Shohei would like a 6-man pitching rotation. Like to
Exactly.
pitch. That's how they do it in Japan, though. They pitch every 6th day. So if
Yes.
you have to accommodate that, you accommodate that because it's Shohei, and you don't have to do it this season because he can't pitch this season, but next season. So it's very, very intriguing, very exciting to hear because you know what else this does too. This makes spring training invitees, free agent pickups, and guys you have on the roster already. It makes it a really, really intriguing competition come this spring training to battle for those 5 spots. So I'm very excited to see once again, like, okay, we're going to have some pitchers that are going to go a little bit deeper. The philosophy is going to be you work through tough spots. Maybe our defense, Matt Chapman at third, is a little bit better. So you don't have to get that strikeout when you're gassed in the 6th inning. Maybe you can pitch through it by putting the ball in play, especially if you're at home at Oracle Park. So we're going to see a little bit more nuanced baseball, and I'm very excited for that. And I've got to read that article and this next segment that I put together. One of the things that I chose, I had not read that. I had not seen that quote yet. You had not told me about that quote, And so you'll see even how more excited we are about the prospect of having starting pitchers go deeper into ball games.
Well, why don't we go ahead and introduce your segment here? Let's give the people the idea that you had, and then we can go into it.
Yeah, I mean, since it was the holidays, I thought, let's do things we were thankful for over the last season. Then I thought, I wasn't thankful for a whole lot. And we've already talked about the little bit of stuff we were thankful for, and there wasn't much. Logan Webb, number 2 in Cy Young voting. Tyro Estrada doing his thing. Patrick Bailey. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot to be thankful for last season. So I thought, let's do a little bit of fortune telling. Let's do a hopeful, thankful segment. So this is what I'm hopeful that I will be thankful for at the end of the 2024 season. And the first is, I don't know if you chose any, but I chose.
I have one, and I think
Okay,
I'll be able to create another one by the time we get through some of this stuff. But you
Perfect.
can go first.
I've got 2, so I'll kick it off. One thing that I'm hopeful that we're thankful for at the end of the 2024 season is that the Giants starters are top 10 in innings pitched. And again, we hadn't even talked about this yet. We hadn't even gotten to this segment. I hadn't seen the quote or anything. I didn't look at the rundown yet. I was just thinking, this is something I really, really want to see going forward next season. The Giants finished 23rd in the majors in 2023 with 729 in a third innings pitch. Logan Webb was first with 216. That leaves all other starts by Giants pitchers with an average of 4 innings per start, not even enough to qualify for a W. And I know, pitching wins are old school and whatever, it's old school thinking, but to get through those 5 innings to qualify for a victory is pretty exciting. Plenty of Giants openers qualified for losses because they'd give up 2 or 3 runs in 2 innings and all of a sudden they're on the hook for the loss, but they didn't get through the 5 to qualify for a win if the Giants were able to come back. So that is definitely something I am hopeful that I'm grateful for. And now that we talked about the Brian Price thing, it just kind of brings it a little bit more into fruition that I might be more helpful. I just want a top 10 in starters innings pitched, and we'll be sitting pretty. And I think we'll get a lot more W's as the season kind of grinds on.
So in order for that to happen, you have another strong year from Logan Webb.
Yep.
You have Alex Cobb coming off of injury to, pitch. Not sure he's going to have 32 starts, but, maybe he's in the high 20s. Yeah. You have Kyle Harrison eating up some innings as the young starter. Maybe your boy Disco bounces back and stays off the injury report for most of the season. And then I don't know who that 5th person is. If I know that they have some ideas from young pitchers who could slide into that rotation, or you go out and get somebody like Yamamoto, who's you're going to have to pay a lot to get him. And I don't know who else the Giants are even close to or rumored to be for as far as arms, but yeah, I mean,
Marcus Stroman, could be a Sonny Gray. I mean,
Marcus Stroman said he really liked the Giants organization.
Yeah, he liked the pitch, he liked the ballpark, he liked what they had to say. And now that you swap out Kapler for Bob Melvin, maybe you like it a little bit more.
Yeah, you maybe that if you struggle a little bit, that you'll have a little bit more of a leash to to kind of bounce back. Stroman. I'm not saying that Stroman and Logan Webb are all that similar, but the style in which they pitch is a little similar. Heavy on the sinkers and just guys who can battle. Unfortunately for Stroman, he hasn't had a season in the last couple where he does have 30-ish starts. I know last year was 27, year before was 25, but in 2021 with the Mets, he did have 33 starts. But he's only had 3 years in his entire career, and we're going back to 2014 to where he's actually had 30 starts in a season. So, that is something to think about when you're expecting to pay big money from a guy. And Price is here saying, we're going to lean into starters, and Marcus Stroman has only thrown 200 innings twice in his career.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's going to have to come from somewhere. It's going to have to, and most likely from the outside. I mean, Kyle Harrison, they're going to push him a little bit, but it sounds like they're going to be okay. The coaching staff, at least, is going to be okay with that. How much does Farhan have to say about that and the development of Kyle Harrison? I think you kind of put Kyle Harrison in there and say, look, man, you're in there. If you can go 180 innings, 200 innings, hey, that's great. Let's get you up there. So, gone are the days of the 300 inning pitchers. Good Lord. When was I think I looked up the last time somebody threw
like
300
Randy
innings.
Johnson or something, probably.
Yeah, it was probably like 2002 or something like that. So it's been a while.
All right. I have mine, which is not so the not pitching related, not defense related. I went offense, and I thought, and this is a stat that has come up a bunch of different times. By the way, I think the last pitcher who threw 300 was Steve Carlton in like
Oh my
1982.
God. Good Lord. All right. Well, that's been a while.
So there's this stat that the Giants haven't had a player hit 30 jacks since Barry Bonds.
Yes.
I would love to see that streak snapped. Here's another thing.
Yeah.
The Giants have had how many brand new left fielders like since Barry Bonds, like every single year? Have we had a repeat left fielder?
We have not. No, that streak is still alive. And I can't remember who the opening day left fielder was this season. Oh, yeah, I can't remember who it was, but I think it is definitely going to be different from
Yeah, exactly, right.
So I'll look it up real quick.
So that one is not going to work because those are the two stats that I just hate hearing about. But wouldn't it be great if we can break that non-30 home run record since Barry Bonds? And I don't know who that is. And
I was going to say, who is it, though?
If it's not Ohtani, is it a healthy Mitch Haniger, though he is a right-handed bat? Is it I don't know if they, I don't know what their interests are in Cody Bellinger if they don't get Ohtani. Yeah. But it's got to be somebody. Somebody's got to break that. Maybe it's Luciano. Like maybe it's somebody like him who breaks through that. Or Matt Chapman comes back to life and offensively. So that's what I want to see. I want to see that record go away. I hate hearing about it. So as far as being hopeful, we're thankful. That is the record that I want to see 30 jacks from somebody next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And there will be a new left fielder this season because the starting left fielder in game 1 of the 2023 season was Blake Sable.
Oh, Jesus.
They're not going to stick him out in left field.
Maybe they should just do it for like one inning.
Just break it.
And just break it.
Yeah, but he's not the guy you want to break it with, though.
No, probably not.
Although that would be a very, very difficult trivia question in about 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Who broke it? Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So I think I've thought of a second, but let's go with your second.
All right. Hopefully it's not this one. Okay. I am hopeful that I will be thankful at the end of the 2024 season that the Giants finished in the top 15 in stolen bases at the end of the 2024 season. And the reason for that is because I am such a stolen base guy. I love the throwback. I mean, the Cardinals teams of the 80s, even though I hated them so much, stealing bases like that was so exciting because a free 90 feet, if you have players that could just give you a free 90 feet, especially when you're the San Francisco Giants in 2023 and you are not scoring runs, if we could have had guys that could get us an extra 90 feet and then, a bloop, an error, something would score some more runs. The Giants finished dead last in 2023 with 57 stolen bases. You know what that is? That's one stolen base every 3 games. Roughly. That's ugly. That's not good baseball. In a year that they changed the rules to steal more bases, the Giants finished dead last with one stolen base every 3 games. Tyro led the Giants with 23 stolen bases. That's 43% or 40% of the Giants' stolen bases last year were all Tyro Estrada. So if the Giants could just get 2 more players that can steal 25 bases each, that pushes you right there into the top 20. So you're not looking at much. They don't have to go much further. Now that Jock's not there, you replace him with a guy who can steal some bases. And here's some guys out there with stolen bases that could reach the 25 mark or maybe even 30. If they get comfortable and the Giants become a running team. Cody Bellinger last year stole 20 bases. Matt Chapman, who is known to be quick on the base paths, kind of sneaky fast.
Mm-hmm.
He only stole 4 last year, but maybe you can get him up to 10 or 15. Shohei stole 20. And the great Kevin Kiermaier, another center fielder, stole 14 bases last year. So get a couple of those guys on the roster, boost up those stolen bases, become a little bit more of a running, even a hit and run team, but a team that can steal some bases, and you can hop into that top 15, and then you're going to win some more ball games because you're going to score some runs.
I like it. And that's something that you thought was actually going to happen this year. That did not happen.
I was a fool. Yes.
I think we were just hopeful this year.
Yeah,
Like, how can we steal some runs? This is one of the ways.
We were hopeful because we were only 2 years removed from 107 wins. So we thought, tweaking some rules. Kapler and the boys are going to figure some things out. They didn't figure anything out.
No. Yeah. My last one is, I was looking this up. The last time the Giants had, Doval had 39 saves last year.
Right.
That is a good number of saves. The most saves that Casilla had was 38. And the most saves that Sergio Romo had was 38 as well. I believe I have that correct. I'm almost sure that I have that correct. So you'd have to go back to the Brian Wilson years when you had a guy who had 40 saves to the Giants, and Wilson had close to 50 saves one year. I know the save is, not the end all be all statistic. Sometimes you need your best reliever, and this was kind of Hader before he became the closer. Sometimes your best reliever has to pitch the 8th inning because of the situation, but the Giants depended on Doval a lot, and I think he wore down a little bit towards the end of the season. And some of that is just young dude. Some of that is new workload. Some of that is he needs to build into that guy. And I would like to see Camilo Doval get over the 40 save mark, because I think what that would tell us is the Giants will be in some pretty competitive baseball games. And B, that Doval would kind of solve this end of the year situation that he has, which is, near the end of the year, he doesn't pitch as well. And that's like normal. That's natural. But I think it's a strength thing. It's a building towards the long season thing. And he does have the ability to be just this tippy top closer. And he's only been doing it for 2 years, 2.5 years, essentially. So still a young guy. He's got that exploding sinker. He has this new pitch clock that kind of works against him as a closer. So all of these things, and I think they can work with him to build into that, and we're talking like, tippy top guy closer that I am hopefully to be thankful for this time next year.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see the way Bob Melvin handles this bullpen and what pieces they add to it too, because if there's, a little bit of pressure on your closer is good. If you go out there and say, "Hey, you're our closer no matter what. You could blow a save no matter what." That's fine. But to say like, "Hey, if you blow 8 saves in the first 2 months of the season, it's still your job." No, you got to have a little bit of pressure. So if the Giants can get, a guy or two that like a Ryan Walker who's just kind of hanging out there waiting to be like, "Well, have you seen my slider? It's nasty. I could pitch the ninth."
Yeah.
So, to have a guy like that kind of behind you, I think will help out quite a bit.
Do you know that Rod Beck also had 48 saves for the Giants one year? He had 51 saves the year he left the Giants. 51.
That's crazy. That's great. And he pitched
with a FIP of 372. So he wasn't dynamic in any way. He was getting a little lucky there.
He was getting tapped around a little bit.
Yeah, he's almost.
But you can do that at Candlestick. You can get tapped around. It depends on where the wind's at. So
Armando Benitez, when he was with the Giants,
don't say that name. Don't ever say that name.
He only had 19 saves, but the year before that the year before they got him, he had 47 saves with a 1.29 ERA.
Yeah, he pitched his way into
pitched
his way into a fantastic contract and just was awful. And the fans at Oracle, man, they let him know about it. And I remember as a Giants fan, that was the first time I was like, wow, we're booing a player. Like I did, like that's not
except for Johnny LeMaster, who is not Johnny LeMaster.
Yeah, well, that's different. Yeah. That's his name, right?
Johnny Boo LeMaster. And Rob Nen, 45 was his number with the Giants, his best number. So, we're talking about rarefied air for Giants relievers with Camilo Duvall. And, he's one of probably the top 10 closers in Giants history already. And would love to see that continue with him because he's got the arm. It's just he's got the crazy stuff, and then he's got the catcher that he can deal with who saves him from some situation. So that's what I want to see from Duvall. All right, that is it. What's the spread like going to be on Thursday?
Let's see. Barbecue turkey. I think Pops is barbecue and a turkey. Because of my health and stuff, I swindled in some Brussels sprouts.
We're having Brussels sprouts too.
Oh, I love Brussels sprouts. So I kind of swindled that in because otherwise it's like creamy this and cheesy this. And it's like, I like all that, but I might have a little bit of dark meat, but I'm gonna have some white meat. And rolls. I'm gonna have some rolls because no saturated fat in rolls, so I can have those, and bourbon because no saturated fat in bourbon either.
Now we went a little long without talking about our drinks, but I tried the drink that I did last week with the tequila and the little swirly and the blueberries. I still haven't figured it out. Now the positive of not figuring it out yet is I got Tuesday and Wednesday to figure it out, which means that I kind of got to keep making drinks for Tuesday and Wednesday. So I will be testing. I want to make a little tequila slushy is my goal. So I'm trying to figure out the right thing. Today was not great. Tomorrow, I have some ideas for tomorrow. And what were you drinking? A beer?
Oh, no, I just went a little bit of Jimmy Beam, the Giants bottle of Jimmy Beam, a shot and a half, or 1.5 ounces with some Zevia ginger.
There you go.
I put a lime in it this time. Harveen, I was talking to Harveen on the way home from work today. I was like, I'm not sure what I'm going to drink. And I told him about this and he goes, oh man, we call those gingies.
Oh,
and I was like, gingy. I'm like, okay, all right. So I had in Harveen's honor, I had a gingy.
There you go. No, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So everyone have a great holiday week. Hopefully get some chance to hang out with the fam or with some friends.
Get the lights up, get the decorations up.
Crystal won't do Christmas tree until December 1st, but
no,
still got a little way.
All right. Well, I'm going to be busting them out tomorrow and Wednesday. Well, I work from home, so during some breaks, I'm going to go up and start getting the stuff down, man. Takes a long time. I like to, on Black Friday, at the end of the day on Black Friday, I like to throw on some hockey, grab a beer, and have the house completely.
There's going to be a Black Friday football game this year.
There is at noon. Yeah, I might miss it because I'll be outside putting
Yeah.
up Christmas lights.
There you go.
So, yeah.
There you go.
Who knows?
All right. Thanks everyone for checking us out. For Brad, I'm Double G. See you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.